everyone's
A very good evening to everyone. On behalf of the Chairman Delhi Gynae Forum Medical Legal Cell, I welcome all the viewers, our esteemed faculty and the experts. Today is the 12th e-seminar on the medical legal issues for the medical fraternity by the Delhi Gynae Forum Medical Legal Cell. And the force behind is Dr. Shada Jain ma'am. It is her vision that she wants to explore and make all the doctors with any specialty to be aware about the medical legal litigations, issues, and how to protect and prevent them. That's why she started a PGD MLS course in June 2020, and the first course with the 13 doctors of mainly the senior gynecologists are going to be over, and the next session is going to start in March 2021. And this course is open to all the doctors of all the specialties, whether it is a doctor from a private or corporate hospital, the intern, MBBS, or of any specialty. Now, today the session is on a very important topic, and for that, to highlight on the topic, I will like to call upon our ma'am, Dr. Shada Jain. She doesn't need any introduction, so I'm not going in detail about her. She's well aware, well known, not only in Delhi and NCR, but all over the India. Ma'am, please give your introductory remark on the subject.
I think the greetings to all the stalwarts who have joined for this particular meeting, and great greetings from the Medical Legal Cell of Delhi Gynecologist Forum. And it's a big pleasure for me that IMA East has joined in this particular meeting, because it is important for each and every doctor in today's time to know about the medical legal issues. These days, the medical legal cases are increasing against doctors, and as far as we gynecologists are concerned, we are leading it. 50% litigations in Medical Council of Delhi Medical Council are against gynecologists. Then comes the turn of surgeons, and then the physicians later. The same is true in NMC also, that that 50% litigations are, or 40% litigations are against gynecologists. It's a big challenge for doctors. The complaint will definitely arise. They will arise because of the variety of issues, either directly or indirectly involved in a patient care. You'll be surprised to know in UK, 98% of the cases are managed informally with mediation, so they are settled outside only. Only 2% cases go to the courts. So I think, the complaint which comes, we need to handle it very seriously. Today is not the topic for that today, but we will take up this particular thing. And I think the senior doctors in the profession should take the responsibility for guiding their colleagues, overseeing the complaint and what is being done. Now we have a great expert, my colleague, Dr. Gaurav. He has been an expert in medical legal issues. He's a doctor, he's a lawyer, and has been advising doctors on medical legal issues for a very long time. He has remained, he's currently a professor on forensic medicine and as well as the legal and on toxicology. And he has been training people in CBI, the officers. He's been training the advocates. And I think he's a big laurel as far as our fraternity is concerned. Today he is going to take up an issue which is very important how the medical legal, how the courts decide about things. I think before we do that, we will ask my colleague, Dr. Singhal, who is the president of the IMA East, to introduce him formally. Dr. Singhal, to you.
Thank you, ma'am. And good evening, everyone. This is a very important topic for all of us, because you see, daily we are facing medical legal cases against all our colleagues, and it is increasing day by day. We are getting people talking. The people are exploiting money from the doctors. So, like today, our speaker is well known to everyone. You know him well. He doesn't need any introduction. And presently, he is working at head of the department and professor of forensic medicine in Mulayam Singh Medical College, Uttar Pradesh. And he is alumni of Medical College. Then he has done his forensic medicine from University College. He has been professor out there in the University College of Medical Sciences.
Sir, I think you need to decrease your volume, Dr. Singhal. A bit, dampen your volume, please.
And he was professor in Vardhan Medical College, and he is expert to various organizations like Delhi Police and NCB and all that. And he is a medical legal expert, and he is guiding to IMA Delhi branch to our members. He assessed to us. And today we are speaking about a very interesting topic for all of us, which is medical legal cases and how judges decide those medical legal cases and how we can. So I open it to Dr. Agarwal.
My request to everybody, please mute yourself because now the presentation will start.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Can you see my presentation?
Full screen.
Yes, we can.
Dr. Shada Jain, Dr. Raj, Dr. Singhal. It's a pleasure meeting you all after a long time, I guess. So I'll start right away with my topic for today, which is how do the courts of law decide on a question of medical negligence? Ideally it was supposed to be a very theoretical presentation, but I've cut out the theory part, and I'll come down right to the practical part with a lot of questions, and I would love to have feedback from you guys. If you have any question whatsoever, please put it up in the chat box. I'll be answering them during the presentation itself. So I'll be taking up not only this question, but also what is the degree of medical negligence and how is it assessed in a court of law, and what is its relation with civil and criminal negligence. So first thing first, how do courts decide on a question of medical negligence? I'm sure with so many sessions that you've had in the past, you are already aware with the theory part. That is what are the basic and the most important judgment behind this question, or the judgment that answers this question directly. So I'll start right away with that. And it is the judgment about Jacob Matthews State of Punjab, given out in August 2005 by a bench of 3 judges, Justice Lahoti, Justice Mathur and Justice Balasubramaniam, which outlined very clearly, although see this concept about medical negligence and what all it entails has been discussed in few judgments before this as well. But this was landmark in the sense that it outlined very clearly down to the last detail that how medical negligence shall be defined, what all it shall constitute and what all it shall not constitute. So as per this landmark judgment, the 3 essential components of medical negligence are a duty of care by the doctor towards the patient. Secondly, a breach in that duty or a dereliction of duty as it is called. And thirdly, when there is a resulting damage because of a breach of duty of care. Now, mind you, all these 3 components need to be present in each and every case. Absence of any of these 3 components shall not constitute medical negligence. So even if there is a duty and a breach, a doctor-patient relationship developed between a doctor and a patient, and there was a breach of the duty or dereliction of duty, but there was no damage to the patient. Okay, so it would not constitute medical negligence. I'll give you some examples in a moment, but this is a scenario that we very commonly see. Some patients come to us, they don't get good results or expected results. Their illness does not improve. Okay, and they want to file a sue. They want to sue the doctor, file a case against the doctor for compensation. But it would not work out in a court of law because there is no damage. The patient had the same illness before coming to the doctor and even now. So there is the case doesn't make up in a court of law. There is no element of damage to the patient. Okay, there are so many examples in this scenario. So all these three components have to be present to constitute a case of medical negligence. And in fact, the court very clearly says, after listing out, these are the exact words from the judgment. After giving out these three components of medical negligence, the court also lists out this very, very important line that if the claimant or the complainant satisfies the court on the evidence that these three ingredients are made out, the defendant, that is the accused doctor, should be held liable in negligence. It is given in para 1.24 of the judgment. It's a very, very lengthy judgment. So all these three components have to be there without a doubt. What are these three components? I'll elaborate a bit. The first is duty, the second is breach, and the third is damage. There are 3 Ds actually. Okay, sometimes we say 4 Ds, the fourth being, damage should be direct causation. So we sometimes call it 4 Ds. But basically यही 3 एलिमेंट हैं जिसके बेसिस पे पूरी की पूरा केस बन सकता है. So there has to be a duty of care or existence of a duty to take care which is owed by the doctor to the patient. What all would it entail? Further, this duty of care has been, what all it can entail. It has got 4 components. It can have 4 components. It is not necessary that all these 4 be present in every case. It can be any of these 4 components among duty of care by the doctor towards the patient. A standard care given out by the doctor towards the patient. A duty to provide information to the patient or his attendants. Consent for treatment between the doctor and patient. Now, of course, it could depend upon situation, whether it is implied or expressed. It is not necessary that there should be everything written in black and white. It could be an implied consent as well. Or emergency care duty. Then when we talk of duties by the doctor towards the patient, there are also certain duties of patient or patient's attendants towards the doctor. Now, some people argue that this is only theoretical. We don't have to do anything we can't do anything. If the patient is not dutiful, then doctor is helpless. It is not so. If the patient is not performing his duties properly, then the doctor is saved from his duties towards the patient. Okay, I'll give you an example. First of all, when does a doctor owe a duty towards a patient? When we talk of standard care, among the 4 elements of duty of care, which is among the 3 elements to constitute medical negligence against a doctor. So when does a doctor owe a duty towards a patient? When the doctor begins to owe a duty towards a patient is when he agrees to treat a patient or when the patient comes to an emergency. In the first situation, it could be an implied or express consent. That is when you say, okay, now when you list out a prescription, that means you have agreed to treat him. When you see his BP, when you give an injection, it is implied consent. Okay, when there is a return consent, there is no doubt about agreement between the doctor, because when we say agreement, when we say consent, it is basically contract between a patient and a doctor. And the doctor is bound by law to comply to that agreement. And when the patient comes in emergency, there is no need of doctor agreeing to it because he is bound by law to treat the patient. right? So in an emergency, consent is not required in most of the situations. So, for example, a lady coming in emergency cesarean section, she requires emergency cesarean section, she's in emergency labor or for whatever reasons. And if the gynecologist is looking after consent from the attendants, it is useless. If the patient is unconscious or she is conscious but unable to signify a written consent, the gynecologist should go ahead and do whatever is necessary to save the precious life of the mother and the baby, right? There is no doubt about it. You are also protected under section 92 of the Indian Penal Code regarding this. Okay, if she has implied in actions that she is ready for the surgery, even then it is okay. If she can just simply put a signature very quickly on a piece of paper, that is enough for the gynecologist to proceed with the emergency surgery if required. So a doctor-patient relationship develops when the doctor and when the doctor agrees to treat the patient and when the patient comes to the doctor in an emergency. And when does a doctor not owe a duty towards the patient? When it is just the opposite, when he is not agreed to treat the patient and when he is not in an emergency. Okay. I'll give you an examples for all these two situations. Example number one, when patient comes to doctor with an itch, for example, on any part of the body, doctor demands fees, patient is unable to pay, patient deteriorates or suffer harm to his condition because the doctor did not start any treatment, because the patient was not able to pay. Now in this situation, the patient cannot sue the doctor as no doctor-patient relationship was ever established between the said persons. Right? Plain and simple. Second example, patient comes to doctor with 80% burn injuries on his body. Doctor demands fees. Patient is unable to pay. Doctor refuses treatment because he did not receive any fees. Patient dies or suffers damage. Now in this particular situation, patient can sue the doctor for medical negligence. Okay, because doctor refused to see the patient in an emergency. 80% burn injuries goes without saying is an emergency. It is a life-saving emergency. Without a doubt, doctor has to commence treatment. Example number 3. This happens very commonly with us doctors, Patient keeps texting or WhatsApping doctors with reports of investigations. Doctors ignores, even taken into account that a double blue tick on WhatsApp has been received by the patient. That means we all understand what a double blue tick means. That means the doctor, the person at the other end has received the message, he has seen the message, but he has not responded to it. Okay, he chooses not to respond to it. Now, because of no response from the doctor's end, patient suffer harms. Now, in this situation also, doctor cannot be sued as no doctor-patient relationship was ever formed. Now, एक तो ये plain and simple situation हो गई, ठीक है? Let us say the patient was, इसको थोड़ा सा हम आगे ले जाते हैं. Patient was in an emergency, वो बार-बार डॉक्टर को टेक्स्ट किए जा रहा है, कॉल किए जा रहा है, डॉक्टर फोन नहीं उठा रहा है, ठीक है? तो जब उसने डॉक्टर ने फोन ही नहीं उठाया, कोई टेक्स्ट का आंसर ही नहीं दिया, therefore doctor is not liable. This is situation 1. Second situation, doctor picks up the phone and says, I cannot answer your call. I am already busy with some other patient or due to whatever reason. Please go to the emergency of a hospital. In this situation also doctor is safe. Third situation, doctor texts what gives an answer to the WhatsApp message or the text message that received on his phone. I cannot cater to your emergency. Please go to a hospital. Just plain and simple message. Okay, nothing relating to asking about details about the patient's symptomatology or anything. In this situation also, doctor is safe. The patient cannot sue the doctor because no relationship has developed. Fourth situation, patient happens to be an old patient or follow-up patient of doctor. In this situation, you could play either you don't respond at all. Okay, not responding, you are not bound by law to respond to each and every patient, even if the patient is in an emergency, right? It is not. We are not talking about a clinic. अभी phone की बात हो रही है, ठीक है? आपने इस पे respond नहीं किया, you are safe. Now let us say old follow-up patient है, you are responding. You are responding by saying, I cannot attend to an emergency. Please go to the emergency of a hospital. In this situation, also you are safe. Even if that patient is follow, it is all right. Patient has to come through proper channel to seek appointment. हाँ ठीक है, emergency है. The most you can do is advise him to go to a emergency of a hospital. If the patient dies or suffers damage because he was not able to reach an emergency, the doctor's liability did not start. So, dear doctor, you are not liable in this situation also. What is the safest way? Don't respond. Okay, don't respond at all. And if you have to respond, just say, please reach the emergency of a hospital. Fair enough? Now, when does a doctor's liability, or when we say liability, this term, sometimes confuses us to no ends, basically it means legal responsibility. When does it commence? Now, my dear friends, I am going to give you a very, very red underlined statement that you are seeing on your screen right now. You will not find this statement anywhere in any textbook or anything. But this has come out after a lot of experience and lot of debates, and lot of debates in courts of law, debates with advocates, debates with patients, and lot of experience. My dear friends, liability of a doctor commences when the doctor sees or touches a patient. Let me elaborate. You are in a clinic, patient comes in an emergency. Okay, let us say clinic के बाहर ही उसको इलेक्ट्रोक्यूशन हो गया. मेरे साथ एक बार हुआ था एक पेशेंट को, ठीक है? या उसको कोई रोड ट्रैफिक एक्सीडेंट है, ठीक है? Any kind of emergency whatsoever, or even if routine, if not in an emergency, the moment you see the patient and tell him or the attendants, please take him to a government hospital, your liability is already started. The moment you touch the patient, try to feel his pulse or anything, put your hand on the forehead of the patient, try to see his eyes, whether he's conscious or not or anything, so try to see his breath, use a stethoscope, use any time instrument to examine his body. Your liability has already started. If you have seen the patient with your eyes, your liability has started. You can be charged under law for not attending to the emergency of the patient. It is not applicable to a routine patient. For a routine patient, you can say, I don't want to see you, please go to another place, for whatever reason, But for an emergency, your liability has started when you have seen the patient. Now, that, the gate of your OPD is a very, very important landmark in this situation. If the patient enters it and you have seen it, your liability is started. If the patient is not entered and your staff or anybody asks the patient to go to another hospital, your liability has not started. You are safe. So I hope I have made it very, very clearly now that doctor's liability or legal responsibility commences when you have seen the patient with your own eyes and ask the patient to go to another place. Because if he was in an emergency and if he dies on the way, then you have to answer why. What did you do to save the life of the patient? चाहे वो हमारे फील्ड का नहीं था, ना गायनेकोलॉजिस्ट है, ऑर्थोपेडिक सर्जन है, आईज कोई भी है, आप बोलोगे हमारे फील्ड का तो है नहीं, आई एम ए गायनेकोलॉजिस्ट. Let me tell you how the court thinks, how the Supreme Court thinks, how all judges think, how the courts of law think. They say that you are an MBBS doctor first. You cannot escape your liability to give first aid to a victim of road traffic accident. Similarly, this is just an example. Okay, although the Clinical Establishment Act में जो अभी दिल्ली में रोल आउट नहीं हुआ है, तभी भी रोल आउट हो सकता है इन नियर फ्यूचर, बिकॉज यूपी उत्तराखंड, अभी मैं 2 दिन पहले उत्तराखंड में था, वहां पे चल रहा है, यूपी में ऑलरेडी चल रहा है. रजिस्ट्रेशन हो रही है, बहुत सारे स्टेट्स में रोल आउट हो चुका है. It lays focus on two important aspects. One is victims of road traffic accidents, and second is women in labor. We as MBBS doctors, we cannot refuse these two category of patients, very, very importantly. But having said that, we cannot refuse any person who demands first aid to save a life. Okay, so if staff or anybody has asked the patient outside the gate itself, please take him to another hospital, we are safe. We can answer it nicely that हमने तो patient देखा ही नहीं, तो हमारी legal responsibility बनती ही नहीं है. किसने कह दिया, अब वो जाने, वो प्रूव करें कि किसने कहा, कैसे कहा, कब कहा. ठीक है, बट अगर हमने देख लिया तो हमारी liability शुरू हो गई है. हमको एक्सप्लेन करना है कि हमने उसकी जान बचाने के लिए इमरजेंसी फर्स्ट एड देने के लिए क्या किया. ठीक है, I hope I have stressed it nicely enough. Now the standard of care, which is part of duty of care, which is responsible, one of the three elements of medical negligence, it means, what does it actually mean? You know, it might sound a general statement, but actually it has got a lot of things inside it. It means due care and diligence of the prudent doctor. Now this means that a reasonable amount of care is enough. The courts does not expect a high amount of care or diligence or prudence on part of the doctor. Standard suitable equipment in good condition, they should not be faulty. Whether it is plain and simple thermometer to a life-saving equipment like maybe a embo bag or a tracheostomy tube, a laryngoscope or whatever. Standard assistance. When a senior doctor delegates a task to a junior doctor, paramedical staff, he must assure himself that the assistant is sufficiently competent, experienced to do the job and fulfills the prescribed qualification. Now, this might come in heavy for all of us private practitioners, that the assistant should be qualified enough, should be experienced and competent. Competence हमने उसको करा दिया, experience भी करा दिया. Sometimes they are not qualified. So this is what the law says that I'm telling you. Now we might have a sorry face in front of court of law if does not have a proper qualification. For a plain and simple clinical assistant, he should be literate enough. Okay, the law does not give out the qualification. But if we are employing a nursing staff, she should be qualified enough. Okay, and they all should have at least to the very basic minimum a certificate of having done a course in first aid, right? It also, standard of care also means that drugs are within their expiry limit, they are not expired. It also means that standard procedure and indicated treatment and surgery was given to the patient. The choice of the treatment was offered to the patient. And the standard premises, you know, the word standard is going to be there for long. For example, whatever nursing home or hospital, they have complied by all the laws of the land. Abhi IMA is there. If there is a question, let me know. Otherwise, please mute yourself. Abhi Dr. Ajay Bedi and team, yeah, they played a very vital role in giving the fire NOC to all the nursing homes and hospitals of Delhi at the level of DMA itself. And so all these things has to be, you know, as part of the standard premises. Standard proper reference to specialist whenever required in time enough, and it should be written down specifically in black and white. Standard proper record keeping of treatment given, surgery and X-ray pathological reports. Standard of not to experiment with the patient as per declaration of Helsinki. Anticipation of standard risks of complications and preventive actions taken in time. They should all be communicated to the patient. And lastly, observing punctuality in consultation. Whenever you announce, write on a piece of paper that please come and show at this time, you should be available there. Of course, you can have a disclaimer inside your clinic or on your letterhead that in case of an emergency, you are expected to, you know, share a delay in timing. The second part of duty of care towards the patient is duty to provide adequate information to the patient or his attendants regarding necessity of treatment, alternative modalities available, and risks of pursuing a particular type of treatment. राइट नाउ इसमें एक इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट आ जाता है जो कि कंसेंट का भी पार्ट है, which is that what all risks a doctor should convey to the patient. The Supreme Court has outlined answered this question very clearly. It says give him a choice of only 1 or 2 important complications. अगर किसी प्रोसीजर की 10 कॉम्प्लिकेशंस हैं, ठीक है, थ्योरेटिकल कॉम्प्लिकेशन तो डेथ की भी होती है हर प्रोसीजर में, तो वो बताने की जरूरत नहीं होती है, इट इज क्लियर बाय लॉ. हाँ, राइटिंग में आना चाहिए कंसेंट में, that is also clear by law, but when you are telling him, explaining him the risks and complications, then 1 or 2 important complications of that particular surgery or procedure that are enough to motivate the patient towards that treatment or to deny that treatment are enough. The law is clear about it. Then you are also required to communicate regarding the duration of treatment, regarding prognosis. There is no need to exaggerate or minimize. Sometimes you go overboard ki nahi sab theek ho jayega, sab theek ho jayega. No, please, let us be very categorical in this aspect. It has to be very plain and simple, as a scientific mind would have normally conveyed to a patient. There is no need to give extra hope to the patient. There is a difference between giving medical hope and ethical hope. I often use the terms. Medical or scientific hope is as per whatever your experience or the medical science says, you can give that amount of hope to the patient. But when you are giving them moral hope or ethical hope, then there is no need to go overboard about it. Let us reduce that part to be legally safe. Regarding expenses and breakup thereof becomes a, Dr. Goyal is there, so many nursing home owners are there. You would, agree with me that this becomes a major issue of fights or breakage of doctor-patient relationship, because they say that they did not know about the details of expenses. कि पहले तो इतना बताया था, खर्चा अब इतना हो गया. Simply because they don't want to pay up. The third aspect of duty of care is consent. So you see, my dear friends, जो लॉ सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने रोल आउट की है, इट इज नॉट सिंपल कि वो लीगल जार्गन है या कुछ है. इट इज वेरी क्लियर डाउन टू द लास्ट डिटेल. Regarding consent as part of duty of care, consent or contract may be implied or expressed. I think I'm going to skip this because it might become, a repetition from your previous lectures. Yes, a doctor cannot be forced to treat every patient, especially in a routine situation. But he has responsibilities for those patients whom he accepts as his patients and for those who come in an emergency. The last component of this is emergency care. As I have stressed this enough already, we cannot escape this. अभी बहुत ही एक फ्रेश केस बताता हूँ आपको. अभी 7-8 दिन पहले मेरे पास एक केस आया. This guy was a police officer who was brought in an ambulance. Now any police officer, he was sub inspector of Delhi police. ये भी मीडिया में नहीं आया, शायद आ जाए जब केस रजिस्टर हो जाएगा. Now you tell me कि इस केस में ये मेडिकल नेग्लिजेंस है या नहीं है. Now this guy was put up in an ambulance. Ambulance came to DD hospital West Delhi में, right? वहां पे रिफ्यूज कर दिया, बोला ये साइकेट्रिक इमरजेंसी है, इसको मेंटल में ले जाओ. The patient was brought to दिलशाद गार्डन, इबास मेंटल हॉस्पिटल. वहां पे पेशेंट को देखा मतलब डॉक्टर ने आंखों से देखा, and probably more than one. ये details are not available with me right now. और उसको बोला GTB हॉस्पिटल में ले जाओ, नेक्स्ट डोर. साइकेट्रिक इमरजेंसी थी. पेशेंट केम टू द इमरजेंसी ऑफ GTB हॉस्पिटल. GTB हॉस्पिटल के डॉक्टर्स ने देखा एंड ही वाज सेंट बैक टू, बोला कि व्हाई हैव यू कम हियर, गो टू इवास, दिस पेशेंट हैज टू बी ट्रीटेड देयर. नाउ इमेजिन व्हाट हैपेंड. हॉरिफाइंग. Patient was in ambulance within the GTB hospital campus, right opposite the GTB hospital emergency. Patient committed suicide inside the ambulance. He took a rope or wire from somewhere within the ambulance. He committed suicide. He died on the spot. Now you tell me, is it simply how would we like to brush it off कि ठीक है हो गया इस तरह के केस सरकारी हॉस्पिटल में होते हैं. अगर सरकारी की जगह प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल होता, are government hospital not answerable? Is this medical negligence or not? How can a hospital doctor, a group of doctors probably, चाहे वो junior resident रहा हो, चाहे वो CMO हो, it doesn't matter. Doctor is a doctor, qualified MBBS doctor, refuse a patient in an emergency, and moments later the patient committed suicide. Now the entire Delhi police force, the patient's family, is up in arms against the so-called one of the hospitals that they want an FIR to be registered. It is a very clear-cut case of criminal negligence at least. We can discuss this after the session. But they want to know, now there was a debate that when the question came, whether it is medical negligence or not, one of the officers said that it is not negligence because the doctor did not act. There was no act committed by the doctor. Now, my dear friends, this is what the beauty of medical negligence is. That not doing an act that the doctor was supposed to do, as well as doing an act that the doctor was not supposed to do, both constitute medical negligence. So, emergency cases में हम कोई act तो करते नहीं when we refuse a patient कि उसको बाहर ले जाओ, दूसरी जगह ले जाओ. But even then it is medical negligence. For this very reason that both acts, doing an act as well as not doing an act, constitute medical negligence. So this was very, very fresh. So most likely FIR will be registered against the concerned hospital or doctors. So can a doctor refuse to see a patient in emergency? Already given you good examples. Can a doctor refuse to see a patient in an emergency citing the reason that the doctor is a specialist and hence cannot administer a first aid to the patient or cannot save his life? I gave you the example of gynecologist और कोई भी specialist, let us say eye specialist है, ठीक है, उनके पास कोई लेबर में पेशेंट आ जाता है, ठीक है, वो कुछ नहीं कर सकते, ठीक है, बट एटलीस्ट अगर उनको लगता है कि लाइफ के लिए सेव करने के लिए कोई स्टेप जरूरी है तो उनको वो करना चाहिए और तभी रेफर करना चाहिए टू द इमरजेंसी ऑफ another hospital where this facility is available to take care to manage the labor. ठीक है? So this was very clearly outlined by the permanent Katara versus Union of India 1989 judgment, where the Supreme Court said that doctor cannot refuse to treat a patient who is in an emergency as per law laid down under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, which is about right to life of every citizen of this country. So please remember the very last line that doctor cannot refuse to treat a patient who is in an emergency. Although this case was a fallout of a patient who was a scooterist and he was brought to a hospital and the hospital referred him to another hospital because he said कि हम medical legal cases नहीं लेते हैं, this and that. और वो patient died before reaching that emergency of another hospital. So this is when the law was laid down in 1989. इसके बाद 1996 में there was another law, पश्चिम बंगाल मजदूर समिति versus state of West Bengal. उसमें भी court came down heavily upon a similar kind of situation where it said that a doctor cannot refuse a patient in an emergency. Now this law is very clear and it is part and parcel of the Clinical Establishment Act of 2010. अभी 2021 हो गए 11 साल, but अभी Delhi में thankfully the powers that be, our friends or whatever, they've stopped it from being, enforced in the state of Delhi. But you never know, कब तक उनका प्रेशर चलेगा और कभी भी ये रोल आउट हो जाएगा. See, we need to make ourselves aware about this act. We cannot escape these laws. We can hope to escape, but ultimately they will be implemented and we have to be a part of that. So it will make sense to educate ourselves regarding Clinical Establishment Act, its rules and regulations. और जब आएंगे दिल्ली में रोल आउट होगा तो इसके जो रूल्स हैं वो स्पेशली फॉर्मुलेट किए जाएंगे, रेगुलेशंस फॉर्मुलेट किए जाएंगे. I was talking about duties that a patient owes to a doctor. Now, they might sound theoretical, but they are not. the patient must disclose all information to the doctor. He must cooperate with the doctor. He must carry out all the instructions and as given out by the doctor. What happens? And he must compensate the doctor in terms of fees and everything, right? What happens if the doctor
I think there is some internet trouble. Dr. Gaurav, just check.
Yes, you can answer.
The points
Dr.
which
Sharat
Dr.
Lakhoutia.
Gaurav is, can I take up? I think you know what Dr. Gaurav has emphasized, and it is eye-opener for everybody who's listening, that in emergency, the court decides and every judge feels that you are a basic MBBS doctor first. And you cannot ignore the emergency. This particular part should be clear to every specialist who say that I am not an ophthalmologist, I am not this, I am not that. Some kind of first aid has to be done. And secondly, Dr. Gaurav has very clearly said, once you touch the patient, once you see the patient, the onus of responsibility starts. Once the patient has come to your premises, has entered the gate of the clinic, if anything happens, from the gate till you see it, the responsibility is yours and yours only. And he's very beautifully highlighted these days that, you know, many times now this is a habit of a patient, that they will take your number and start sending you the reports.
Hello.
Yes, sir, please.
Yeah.
Sir, please.
Sorry for the interruption. Yeah. So I'll carry on from where I left. So can you hear me now?
Sir, we can hear you, but your screen is not here.
Is the doctor liable if the patient does not perform his duties? And how much is the doctor liable? You know, as it is called as contributing negligence. Yes, the doctor is not liable if the patient does not perform his duties. Because see, every time in consumer cases or whatever, the doctor gives out, the patient gives an affidavit. So does the doctor. The patient says that I have not hidden any information and it is true to the best of my knowledge. You know, so by that clause and so many, you know, this is general law. It is not very specific. इसमें कोई law नहीं है. General laws हैं that patient अगर कोई चीज share नहीं करता है, which is बाद में discover होती है and which might change the course of the treatment or which might cause the patient to suffer harm because of lack of knowledge received at the end of the doctor. In that case, he is not liable, right? So, the second, now we come to the second part of this, under this Jacob Matthews State of Punjab 2005 judgment, which is breach or dereliction of duty. Breach of duty or dereliction of duty. That is failure to attain that standard of care prescribed by law, thereby committing a breach of such duty. Now, there are 5 aspects to the breach of duty that doctor must, and the failure to follow and disregard the following shall also comprise breach of duty: must continue to treat, must give reasonable care to the patient, must give reasonable skill and not undertake any procedure beyond his skill, and duty regarding professional secrets. As far as continued treat is concerned, then the responsibilities towards the patient begins the moment a doctor agrees to examine the case, and he must not therefore abandon his patient except under following circumstances: that the patient has recovered from the illness for which treatment was initiated. In such a case, he can discontinue treatment. Okay, it will not be called as breach, but it is just discontinuation of treatment. उसके बाद patient आएगा, fresh case आएगा, ठीक है? And patient or attendant does not pay doctor's fee for obvious reasons. There is no breach in the doctor-patient relationship from the patient's end. Therefore, doctor is absolved of his responsibility. Third situation could be when patient or attendant consults another doctor and does not inform the doctor. Of course, वो consult करे, कितने डॉक्टरों को दिखाए, but there could be some medicines causing interaction with the doctor's treatment, with my treatment. Therefore, I need to be informed that what other treatment you are taking. The patient does not cooperate and follow doctor's instructions. Okay. Patient is under some other responsible care, for example, hospital admission, or doctor has given due notice. For example, उसको कोई कॉन्फ्रेंस में जाना है, कहीं कोई इमरजेंसी होगी, डॉक्टर की फैमिली इमरजेंसी, तो ऐसा नहीं है कि वो एक बार ट्रीटमेंट शुरू कर दिया तो वो चिपका रहेगा. ठीक है, he is free to leave by giving a oral or better oral का तो कोई रिकॉर्ड होता नहीं ना, रिटन में पेशेंट को दे दे, केस शीट पे लिख दे, उसके साइन करवा ले, जो साइन ना भी करे कोई बात नहीं, बट what is important is another doctor has been appointed in your place to take care of the treatment of the patient. ठीक है, ऐसा नहीं है कि पेशेंट को कोई इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं है, पेशेंट इज कॉलिंग द डॉक्टर एंड डॉक्टर सेज कि आई एम आउट ऑफ स्टेशन. ऑब्वियसली पेशेंट नाराज हो जाएगा, तो पेशेंट हैज टू बी गिवन ड्यू नोटिस that from now on your treatment will be continued by so and so doctor or my team, doctors of my team. Doctor is convinced that the illness is a fictitious one, a fabricated illness hai, then also doctor can discontinue treatment. The second aspect of breach of duty is reasonable care. Reasonable care basically means standard, not only standard prescription but also standard equipment and directions given about how to take a drug, what frequency to take, and all these things, instructions given in local language of the patient. Now you would say, we write prescriptions in English, not Punjabi or Hindi or any other language that the patient understands. Okay, you can do that. But at the same time, on a part of a prescription, if you are making enough diagrams or scribbling certain words that the patient can understand, it is fair enough. Okay, like we are making some labels or numbers for medicines, frequency of medicines, that is fair enough. You don't need to write each and every word on the prescription in a vernacular language. Third, the reasonable care also includes care to be continued till such time that the patient has been treated. Or I am going to skip this part and come to the more come to the important aspect of reasonable skill. Now, this is also same as reasonable care, that the courts do not demand a very high degree of skill. And, there is a important line that is given out by a court of law itself, that medicine is not an exact science. I shall use my experience and best judgment, and you take the risk that I may be wrong. I guarantee nothing. It would not be a bad idea to have this line printed boldly in all our prescriptions. It gives a direct message to the patient. ठीक है, कई बार पेशेंट कहते ना कि डॉक्टर साहब ने तो अश्योर किया था, गारंटी दी थी कि मैं ठीक हो जाऊंगा. So this gives a direct message to the patient, and he, that whatever we are doing is based upon our experience and skills. There is no guarantee of anything. For example, a cancer patient comes to a doctor. Doctor gives her proper and judicious treatment. Despite that, the patient dies after some time. In such a scenario, doctor cannot be sued as there is no breach in duty. See, not having a desired outcome does not mean that there was medical negligence. That is the important message from this example. So many patients die, so many suffer harm because of the illness that they're suffering from. But the patient has to be given that message that there is no guarantee of treatment in medical science. Anything can happen. But of course, we tell them every now and then, we need to write it out, make it a habit to write it on our prescriptions in whatever simple language that we can think proper. Because at our end, we need to be having reasonable skills. The fourth aspect of breach of duty is not to undertake any procedure beyond one's skills or one's specialty. If I'm a gynecologist and I'm trained and confident and experienced in giving cervical block for MTP or for whatever reason, anesthetic blocks, local blocks, regional blocks, then there is no requirement of an anesthetist, qualified anesthetist. But if I don't have that skill and I falter during that kind of giving out that block to the patient, then I stand risk of being sued by the patient. It is common that eye specialist, ये बड़ा debatable question है, अक्सर कहते हैं कि eye specialist को anesthetics रखना क्या जरूरी है? नहीं है जरूरी. If you have learned it during your MS, how to give anesthesia for eye surgeries, you can go ahead with it. But अगर कहीं भी ऐसा लगता है कि आपको लंबा केस चलने वाला है या इसमें anesthetics होना जरूरी है और आप रिस्क लेते हैं और वो desired outcome नहीं आता है, then you might be at the receiving end. So should take only the calculated amount of risk as much as you can handle. Goes without saying that please mute. Goes without saying that professional secrets cannot be of our patients cannot be shared with the attendants unless demanded by law. Of course, there are 5-6 reasons we all know about it. And we come to the last component, and that is resulting damage. Now, किसी पेशेंट को लेफ्ट साइड पे फ्रैक्चर था, ठीक है, डॉक्टर ने राइट पे ऑपरेट कर दिया, बाद में पता चला कि राइट में भी फ्रैक्चर था, तो उसे डैमेज तो नहीं हुई ना. राइट वाला भी इंजर्ड था, फ्रैक्चर था, वो हमने उसको ट्रीट कर दिया, उसको ऑपरेट कर दिया या पीओपी कास्ट लगा दिया, ठीक है, लेफ्ट वाला रह गया, आप कर देंगे. सो डैमेज होना जरूरी है. दिस इज वन एग्जाम्पल. या हमने ट्रीट किया, पेशेंट ने हार्म सफर किया, बट वो इलनेस उसकी डिटरेट हो गई, उसमें वी कैन एक्सप्लेन दैट व्हाटएवर वी डिड वाज बाय बुक एंड वी गेव स्टैंडर्ड केयर, देयर वाज नो ब्रीच इन ड्यूटी, बट हैविंग डिजायर्ड आउटकम not being met, desired as mean desired by the patient as well as the doctor, not being met in time or in quantity does not mean that it is medical negligence. So damage may be regarding disability, loss of money, not able to patient not able to afford the fees, or having spent lot of money on the treatment, loss of mental capacity, loss of limb, and all these things are nicely quantified by the advocate of the patient and given out to the court that this is the damage he suffered and therefore he should be compensated for that amount. Now patient can demand anything, but the courts have come out with a formula called as the multiplier method to give out the exact amount of quantum of compensation, which came in the Balram Prasad versus Kunal Saha judgment. Also the Malay Kumar Ganguly, same case, with different case title. Ganguly versus Sukumar Mukherjee was the main doctor in this case, and they came out with this formula that final value that is to be given out by the court as compensation is equal to present value of damage PV multiplied by 1 plus R whole raised to the power n. R is the rate of inflation. In this particular judgment, it was calculated as 1%. And N is the time period, 70 minus age in years of that patient, 70 being the life expectancy of the patient. So by this method, the court comes out with the final amount that has to be disbursed to the patient in terms of compensation. Now, there was an example here, as far as damage is concerned, patient of viral fever, for example, comes to the doctor. Doctor diagnoses him with tuberculosis and treats him with ATT, right? Now, duty, that means he agrees to treatment. Duty is established, duty of care. Now, despite lab reports showing otherwise, that is, there was nothing suggestive of tuberculosis. He maybe started the treatment on the basis of signs and symptoms, his clinical judgment. So there was a dereliction of breach of duty because he did not agree to the reports, or he did not give enough, despite the report suggesting otherwise, the doctor went ahead with ATT. Now patient discontinues ATT. This is not uncommon. Patient discontinues ATT and yet becomes well because he was suffering from viral fever. Later, a patient comes to doctor that I want to sue you because you gave me wrong medicines. In such a case, again, doctor cannot be sued as there is no damage. इस तरह के बहुत सिनेरियोज हम कॉमनली देखते हैं अपनी प्रैक्टिस में. So all the three components have to be fulfilled to call it medical negligence. Duty was there in this particular case. There was a breach of duty. Okay. Okay. But, or you can say there was no breach as doctor was going with his clinical judgment. But importantly, there was no damage. The patient became all right. Despite the doctor having given wrong treatment or ATT based upon his clinical judgment, which is not supported maybe by lab investigations. So there was no damage, no medical negligence. Okay. Now, on whom does the burden of proof arise in such, because Indian law में depending upon case, for example rape case है, ठीक है, एक girl ने एक accused पर charge लगाया कि I was raped. Now in such a case the burden of proof is not on the complainant girl, it is the burden of proof that he was innocent and he is not guilty of committing rape on that girl is on the accused, not on the girl. But in cases of medical negligence, the burden of proof is not on the doctor, is on the patient. That is the complainant or the claimant. Complainant we say in criminal cases, claimant we say in civil cases for under the Consumer Protection Act. So the patient has to prove that in what all circumstances, how down to the last detail, how was the doctor negligent. Now the doctor will defend, but the burden of proof remains on the complainant patient himself. We'll move very quickly to another few minutes on the degree of medical negligence. Then I'll end up my presentation and the house is open for questions later on. Now, to start with, what does it mean? We hear this term criminal negligence, civil negligence very commonly. So I thought I'll clarify it in very simple terms. What does it mean when somebody says that an FIR has to be registered or FIR has been registered against a doctor? What does it mean when someone says that a summons has been received from the court or when someone says notice has been received from a court? Regarding FIR, it means it is a criminal case. Okay, FIR is not registered under civil cases, barring very few. See, when we say civil cases, that means it is for compensation, whether in a civil court or in a consumer court under the Consumer Protection Act. अभी 2019 में नया Consumer Protection Act आ गया है, implement हो गया है, ठीक है. So whenever there is a talk of FIR under 304A IPC, 304A IPC means death due to a rash and negligent act. रोड ट्रैफिक एक्सीडेंट में डेथ हो जाती है, कोई भी एक्सीडेंट में डेथ हो जाती है नेग्लिजेंस से, तो उसमें 304 से AIPC ही लगता है. And the same is also put up against the doctor in case of alleged medical negligence. But उसमें क्लियर कट गाइडलाइंस आ गई हैं कि उसमें ऐसे नहीं लग सकता है, पहले इंक्वायरी होगी तभी केस रजिस्टर होगा. ये केस रजिस्टर भी हो जाता है FIR, कोई बात नहीं, डॉक्टर अरेस्ट नहीं होगा, ठीक है, unless it is very very exceptional case, then only doctor will be arrested. और अगर अरेस्ट हो भी जाता है तो उसको कोर्ट जाने की जरूरत नहीं, बेल के लिए थाने से ऑन द स्पॉट तुरंत ही बेल हो जाती है. दिस इज एज पर लॉ ऑफ द लैंड. ओके, तो इसमें कोई डरने की बात नहीं होती है. वी जस्ट नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज व्हाट. सो व्हेन somebody receives a summons from a court of law, it means the FIR is being registered under whatever section of law, 304A IPC or whatever, and the court has received the case from the police, and therefore the court has sent summons for the appearance of doctor in that particular case to depose as a witness कि उसका क्या क्या रोल था. ठीक है, जब नोटिस आता है कोर्ट से, इसका मतलब है दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट ए सिविल कोर्ट और ए कंज्यूमर कोर्ट. ठीक है, वो कंपनसेशन का कोर्ट है, केस है, उसमें कोई FIR की बात नहीं है, वो सिविल नेग्लिजेंस की बात हुई. So that is what the difference is between civil negligence and criminal negligence. It is about compensation and it is about criminal negligence about punishment. The maximum punishment under criminal law under 304A IPC is 2 years of imprisonment. और 2 years तो rarely किसी की भी नहीं होती है, बहुत ही rarest of rare होती है. ठीक है. And how do courts decide whether it is a case of civil negligence or criminal negligence? Or very simply put, what is the degree of negligence? Now you have to imagine the answer to this question. It is in the form of a spectrum. Okay. On one end of the spectrum, you can imagine on your left side, it is the least amount of negligence. And on the right extreme, if you were to draw a bar, on the right extreme is maximum amount of negligence. Now, the quantum of or the maximum amount of negligence corresponds with criminal negligence. Okay, where a doctor might be liable for punishment by, and punishment kaise hoti hai? By a jail term, by the court, with a very, the fine is very little, with or without fine, few thousand rupees ka fine hota hai. But it is obviously the jail imprisonment that is embarrassing. But as I said, it is very, very rare. And at the lowest end of the spectrum is no or very little negligence, and that is the civil negligence aspect. Okay, and that is when the patient asks for compensation from the doctor. So let me give you a very, very clear answer to this. It has been decided by courts of law as to how to assess the degree of negligence. Now the court says for purposes of criminal law, there are degrees of negligence, and a very high degree of negligence is required to be proved before the felony is established. I'll elaborate a bit on this. Thus, a clear distinction exists between simple lack of care incurring civil liability, that means for compensation purposes, and very high degree of negligence which is required in criminal cases, that is for punishment of the accused. The Lord Porter was the judge in that particular judgment, because when we say Lord, that means we are talking about British era. Said in his speech in the same case, a high degree of negligence has always been demanded in order to establish a criminal offense than is sufficient to create civil liability. Now it comes out to very clear directions by these judges in civil proceedings. A mere, mind you, this is again a line very, very boldly underlined, a mere preponderance of probabilities is sufficient. Please remember this line in our hearts. A mere preponderance of probabilities is sufficient, and the defendant is not necessarily entitled to the benefit of every reasonable doubt. Now, abhi isi line ko lete hain. That means in civil cases, for compensation under consumer code, we need not the complainant, the claimant, patient need not prove the factual evidence of each and every proceeding that has taken place with his body as part of the treatment doled out by the doctor on his body. Clear? Now, then what is required? A preponderance of probability is sufficient. That means if this and this is the series of events and this is how it occurred, it is sufficient enough to opine that yes, this might have taken place in absence of any other evidence given out by the doctor in his defense that the series of events did not take place. In a court of law, the biggest question is the patient trying to prove that the doctor was negligent by these series of events that he performed as part of treatment on my body, and the doctor is trying to disprove it by saying, putting up evidence that this series of evidence did not take place because इस तरह की patient की condition गई और ये मैंने किया, which is on record. Sometimes records are not available, and there comes the question of good record keeping, a thorough record keeping, कि जो डॉक्टर ने किया है good faith में वो अच्छा ही करता है हमेशा. ठीक है, वो जान के कभी किसी का गलत काम नहीं करता है, ना ट्रीटमेंट गलत करता है. सो इन सिविल केसेस दैट इज फॉर कंपनसेशन. अगर थोड़ा बहुत डाउट है, सबसे बड़ा क्वेश्चन कोर्ट के सामने होता है कि डॉक्टर सच बोल रहा है कि पेशेंट सच बोल रहा है. ठीक है, एंड कंज्यूमर प्रोटेक्शन इज ए हेवीली कंज्यूमर फेवरेबल एक्ट. जो पेशेंट बोलेगा वो गॉस्पेल ट्रूथ माना जाएगा, और जो डॉक्टर बोलेगा उसकी बात कम से, बिकॉज उसकी लॉ इस तरह की बनी हुई है ना. डॉक्टर हो, कोई भी डिफेंडेंट हो, शॉपकीपर, कोई भी इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट, कुछ भी हो सकता है ना, मैन्युफैक्चरर हो सकता है, इट इज नॉट ओनली डॉक्टर. तो सिर्फ अगर ज्यादा एविडेंस कोर्ट के पास है जो पेशेंट की बात को साबित करता है, देन कॉम्पनसेशन विल बी ग्रांटेड टू हिम, इवन इफ it is not proved to the last effect that this is what actually happened. Okay, but it is different in criminal proceedings. The persuasion of guilt must amount to such a moral certainty, that is, I'm talking about the other end of the spectrum, very high degree of guilt or gross negligence, must amount to such a moral certainty as convinces the mind of the court as a reasonable man beyond all reasonable doubt. That means beyond all reasonable doubt, it must be conclusively proved that there was gross negligence or gross deficiency in conduct of the doctor while giving out treatment to the patient. अगर उसमें जरा सा भी doubt होगा, beyond reasonable doubt, see, reasonable is the underlined word. अगर उसमें doubt है, which creates question mark on the conduct of the doctor or on the treatment given out by the doctor, then it would not amount to proving of a charge under criminal proceedings of death due to rash and negligent or 304A or medical negligence under 304A IPC. Okay, so it has to be, this is how the degree of negligence is, proven by the courts. High degree है तो ठीक है, it can go to criminal. अगर criminal नहीं है तो civil तो anyway बन ही सकती है, ठीक है. So this is laid down by other laws also, as in 1881. So this is law of the land, and the court finally said that in our opinion, that is of the court, the factor of grossness or degree does assume significance while drawing distinction in negligence actionable in tort, that is in civil law, and negligence punishable as a crime. To the letter, that is criminal, the negligence has to be gross or of a very high degree. Okay. So this is as far as my presentation for today was concerned. I'll just like to conclude with this line, with this slide particularly. Just a moment. That the court in this judgment, in Jacob Matthews, also listed out, sorry, not in this judgment, but in Kusum Sharma versus Batra Hospital judgment, listed out 11 principles of medical negligence, that in 11 situations there could be medical negligence, but वो 3 factor ही important हैं to constitute medical negligence. Thank you so much. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Please go ahead.
I am Dr. Sharad Lakhotia, and eye surgeon. And first of all, I would appreciate that very well that you have conducted the session and you have explained everything. But I would also would like to know whether would you like to explain the same thing to the judges as well? Are the judges knowing all these things what you are telling?
I have a very good, I have a very good answer
now
to that.
I will give you an example. There was a case in 1998, medical negligence for loss of sight. The patient is after 22 years having normal eyesight, and a judgment has been given for loss of sight by State Commission, and the case is pending in National Commission now. After 22 years, patient's vision still today is 6/6, and loss of sight judgment is given without presenting a single paper that the vision is bad. Not a single paper. This is the kind of thing that is happening in State Commission these days. What kind of nexus is happening? The doctors are just becoming prey to all these things. So we have to give an answer to them how to protect. I can give you example. This is a classical case where series of wrongs have been done against the law and there is nobody to hear it. And is there any forum where we can present about these problems? Because in state, in even appeal in National Commission, for 2 years, 3 years now, no case is being heard for 2 years, over 2 years, not a single date discussion. Can you give an example how we can present our problem? Otherwise, the whole career is tarnished.
I know.
And a compensation in crore, for no loss of sight, without any document of loss of sight, and patient having good vision till today.
So, Dr. Sharad, first of all, I'd like to begin by saying that contrary to our opinion, normally, I'm using the word normally. Normally means more than an average. Judges are very sharp. Okay, they have got a huge experience and knowledge of all fields of law and of whether not only medical but other fields as well. But regarding this particular case that you're talking about, only thing I can say is that they're black sheep everywhere, and we know judiciary also has black sheep. Personally, yeah.
Could you just suggest one forum where these views can be presented? When I see that these are persons who are connected with medical profession and legal profession running a nexus, and they are being supported by some of the doctors, is there any respite for doctors where they can go and appeal? Even I am a headquarter person, they could not do anything to this.
If there is enough evidence to prove the nexus between judiciary and whatever another party,
the biggest nexus is no loss of sight, no loss of sight, and still judgment on loss of sight. How is this possible without a document to support it?
See, any proceeding
Now,
of
sir, please listen to Dr. Gaurav what he says.
Yes.
any proceeding of National Commission is appealable or actionable by the Supreme Court. So in this, legally speaking, you are free to approach the Supreme Court. Period.
I know this. Absolutely. That's the answer. 22 years you have to suffer and there is no respite. That is why I say the doctors' lobby has to be strong to withstand
Absolutely.
such cases. And we have to unite and fight together to see that these obnoxious rules are not used unjudicially to our honest and simple doctors. Thank you very much, Dr. Gaurav.
Dr. Lakotia, what doctor has said, that, whenever there is a fight against the doctor should not lose nerves. Even if you have lost in the national court, it will go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court finally is going to ask the National Medical Council about the thing.
Absolutely. I am waiting for the day. National Commission date is still not come. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gaurav. I just wanted to highlight this issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. And I
Dr.
think
Goyal, you want to comment? Dr. Goyal?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for inviting me. मैं जैसे सबने बोला कि मैं अपने मैडम ने भी बोला कि ये ना देखें इमरजेंसी में, ये मैं स्पेशलिस्ट नहीं हूँ, ये चोट वाला आ गया, ये लेबर वाला आ गया, ये इसका आ गया, मैं आई सर्जन हूँ, मैं ये हूँ, मैं क्यों करूँ, इसे भेजो. दैट इज रॉन्ग. पहली बात तो आपको उसको इमरजेंसी ट्रीटमेंट देना है एज पर योर लिमिट्स. वन अदर थिंग, ये तो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, देना है. दूसरी बात मैं सबसे कहूंगा, हम सब क्लिनिक वालों से बोलूंगा कि एक इमरजेंसी डायरी, इमरजेंसी बुक बना के रखें, जिसके अंदर जो ऐसा मरीज आए उसकी डिटेल्स नोट करें. दूसरी बात, एक बात साथ में और बोलूंगा, जो ऐसा पेशेंट आया है आपके पास, आप उसे रेफर कर रहे हैं आफ्टर गिविंग सम फर्स्ट एड, एक प्रिस्क्रिप्शन बना के उसके हाथ में जरूर दें कि इस कंडीशन में मरीज आया और मैंने ये काम करा, ये गोली चेस्ट पेन का आया, आपने चेस्ट पेन की गोली दी उसे, आप लिख के दें कि मैंने ये गोली दे दी, मैंने बीपी देखा, मैंने पल्स देखी, और वो प्रिस्क्रिप्शन की फोटोकॉपी ले. कोशिश करके अगर नहीं है फोटोकॉपियर तो फोटो खींच ले और वो उसके हाथ में दें. अगर फोटोकॉपियर है तो उसे रिसीव करा ले और एक कॉपी बना लें जिसमें ये डॉक्यूमेंट मेंटेन करें, जिसके अंदर आप लिखें कि ऐसा मरीज आया था और आपने क्या करा है. यू कैन बी इंक्वायर्ड एनी टाइम of the year or with time you can be inquired about the patient. Dr. Gaurav बताएंगे.
I think very good input. Very good input.
Very beautiful. I would say very clear terms में उस बहुत stress करके डॉक्टर गोयल ने बताया है. Of course, we need to put in records of all the patients that we see, whether routine or in emergency. But yes, it makes sense कि emergency register अलग से बना के रखें, maintain कराएं और ड्यूली उसको रिसीव करा लें. यस, एब्सोल्युटली, टोटली एग्री, टोटली.
क्लिनिक में सर कोई जो कर रहे हो करते रहो, लेकिन इमरजेंसी के लिए जरूर मेंटेन करो प्लीज.
एब्सोल्युटली.
आई थिंक वो जो गेट वाला जो चीज है, गेट से जो हम लोग कहते थे आप चले जाओ दूसरे, तो अगर वो अंदर आ गया तो ये इमरजेंसी रजिस्टर बहुत जरूरी है. आई एग्री विद यू. Any expert wants to make any comments, please? Any experts?
अगर वो गेट पे भी आ गया तो हम उसे रिफ्यूज नहीं कर सकते.
I agree with
अगर हम
you.
उसे रिफ्यूज कर रहे हैं, वी आर पार्टी टू इट. वी आर पार्टी
Yes.
टू इट.
Yes, yes,
वी आर
yes.
पार्टी टू इट. हाँ, अगर हमने गेट वाले को रिफ्यूज करा है, वी आर पार्टी टू इट.
Yes, absolutely.
गौरव ने बिल्कुल कहा, अगर आपकी नजर पड़ गई है,
हाँ.
देखा नहीं है तो भी नजर पड़ गई है, तो आपका योर डायबिटीज स्टार्ट.
Yes. Yes.
See, we are safe, Dr. Goyal, we are safe as long as the doctor has not seen the patient. ठीक है? My point was that. अगर बाहर से किसी ने भगा दिया, ठीक है, वो हमें तो नहीं पता ना. हाँ, वही किसी की बात कर रहा हूँ. अगर डॉक्टर ने एक बार देख लिया पेशेंट को, लाइबिलिटी स्टार्ट हो गई है.
I can see
Can I
Dr.
ask-
Jitendra here for your comments.
Madam, one thing I want to ask. Good evening, everybody. We are using the word emergency many times. Dr. V.K. Goyal has also used the word emergency. Gaurav Agrawal sir has also mentioned in his lecture that we have to attend emergency patient as per Parmanand Katara's case and other Paschim Bengal Khet Mazdoor Association case. But I want to know in which particular act the word emergency is defined and whose duty is there to decide that whether the patient is an emergency or not. Because
Can I interrupt?
every patient is an emergency as per the patient. Suppose patient is coming with the pain in abdomen, whether patient is an emergency patient or not. So that please throw the light that which patient is an emergency patient.
Okay, I like to answer that question.
Dr. Gaurav, can I
See,
interrupt? Can you just
Yes.
stop sharing your screen?
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So, see, the word emergency has been defined under Clinical Establishment Act for now. Till before 2010, it was not defined so clearly. That is one aspect. But that also has been, emergency has been, narrowed down to two aspects that I talked about. One was patient in labor and another was patient of a road traffic accident, right? Now, having said that, emergency is the act also says that emergency it is traditionally believed that whatever the patient says is an emergency is an emergency. उसके लिए as you rightly said उसका पेट दर्द भी emergency है, उसका सर दर्द भी emergency है, ठीक है. But act ने clinical establishment act अगर हम देखेंगे clearly उसको एड्रेस करने की कोशिश की है.
Define नहीं किया.
Clinical establishment, let me complete. It says very clearly that till such an extent that the patient is stabilized, the word used is stabilized. ठीक है? Till such an extent that the patient is stabilized, the doctor will have to cater to that emergency. Now, instead of going into detail in the word emergency, which has जो उसने बता दिया अपने हिसाब से कि 2 इमरजेंसी है मेरे कानून के हिसाब से, ठीक है, उसने ये बता दिया है कि उस इमरजेंसी के लिए करना क्या है, उसको स्टेबलाइज करना है. नाउ व्हाट वुड स्टेबलाइज इन्वॉल्व इज अप टू द डॉक्टर कि उसकी लाइफ सेव हो गई, ठीक है. सो आई वुड से इन प्रैक्टिकलिटी, maybe in theoretically your question is not answered what you're looking for, but in practicality, please mute कौन है. So in practically it has been answered that the patient has to be stabilized till such time he is fit to be transferred to another facility.
Sir, the problem in Clinical Establishment Act is that exhaustive definition of emergency as well as exhaustive definition of stabilization is not there. So,
Absolutely.
what is stabilization? That is difficult to prove in the court of law. So, you will say that I have stabilized the patient, but court will not agree. Court will say that no, patient was not stabilized and transferred. And they will
This is- yeah.
blame on you.
We will take
This is the gray area. Yes,
short questions.
absolutely. Yeah.
Short questions by 2 more people.
Sir, can I say something?
Please.
So, patient can always blame us for a mental agony or trauma. If there is no physical damage that has happened, sometimes patients say we had grave mental agony. So, is that considered a trauma damage in the court of law?
Yeah, see, we talked about quantifying and assessing damage. Okay, there has to be some physical damage Yes, of course, mental and physical both. वो जब भी compensation मांगते हैं, it is standard कि वो mental agony के लिए मांगते हैं और उसके लिए मांगते हैं. So normally it is very difficult to prove mental harassment or mental agony, practically speaking. Yes. So ज्यादा से ज्यादा कोर्ट क्या few thousand rupees का वो compensation दे देते हैं कि ठीक है, few thousand rupees could be anywhere between couple of thousand to maybe 5,000, 10,000 or whatever. But it is very difficult to prove mental agony. Because वो कोर्ट भी यही देखता है ना. See, as I said, I would come to that statement I made. It's a very profound statement. Judges normally are, जो well-read judges होते हैं, they are very sharp minds. There has to be something on the face of it, or on the face of the case, that the harm, physical harm was suffered to the patient. So mental agony होता है, but it is very difficult to prove in court.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Khanna, yes.
Dr. Gaurav, thank you very much for a very nice presentation, very interesting, very practical. And I just wanted to know that, like, for the consumer protection, everything is not favoring the consumer. The judges you're saying are very sharp. I mean, everyone is good, but so are doctors. So is there any section in the Indian Penal Code which wants to protect the doctors, or say that the doctor did not want to cause harm, but it happened?
Yes, ma'am. There are plenty. Yeah, there are plenty of sections under the criminal law, and there are certain, I would say, certain other acts of law in which there is protection given to doctors. एक तो सबसे बड़ा तो ये वायलेंस अगेंस्ट डॉक्टर्स ही है, जो कि अभी आया, एटलीस्ट दिल्ली में तो है ना, बाकी भी 20 स्टेट्स में है. और नेशनल एक्ट का अभी आपने लास्ट ईयर सुना ही था कि अमित शाह जी ने उस पे वीटो लगा दिया अपना. बट यस, देयर इज ए पॉसिबिलिटी दैट दिस कुड बिकम ए नेशनल लॉ. So that is the biggest weapon that we have to protect doctors. Secondly, there is some beautiful sections like section 92 of the Indian Penal Code, which I talked about briefly, that attempt to save life of a person in case of an emergency, consent is not required. ठीक है, जैसे एग्जांपल दिया जाता है, बिल्डिंग में आग लगी है, बच्चे की जान बचानी है, कोई तरीका नहीं है, बच्चे को ऊपर से फेंक दिया, नीचे से उसे कैच करना है कुछ लोगों ने, ठीक है. अब वो कैच करने के बजाय बच्चा गिर गया, मर गया, तो भाई उसमें इंटेंशन तो जो फेंकने वाले का था वो उसको मारने का नहीं था, बचाने का था ना, कि उसने इशारों से बताया कि भी आई एम थ्रोइंग दिस बेबी एंड यू ट्राई टू सेव इट. तो लॉ प्रोटेक्ट करती है बचाने वाले को, चाहे वो डॉक्टर है या कोई भी है. तो 92 आईपीसी इज ए वेरी गुड फैक्टर, वेरी गुड लॉ. और इस तरह से छोटी छोटी बहुत सारी लॉज हैं जहां पे डॉक्टर्स का स्पेशल रोल है. सो आई थिंक एज फार एज क्रिमिनल लॉ इज कंसर्न, देयर आर मेनी लॉज to save the doctor, and that is by prosecution under 304A IPC. जब डेथ हो जाए, या बाकी लॉ जहां डेथ ना हो बट मेडिकल नेग्लिजेंस का चार्ज हो, जैसे अब एपिडेमिक एक्ट की जो अमेंडमेंट आई मार्च में, ठीक है, वो भी एक बहुत बड़ा फैक्टर है डॉक्टर को बचाने के लिए, कि ड्यूरिंग द कोर्स ऑफ हिज ट्रीटमेंट एज पार्ट ऑफ द एपिडेमिक, अगर कोई उसमें बाधा करता है, पेशेंट गड़बड़ करता है, कुछ भी वायलेंस करता है या कुछ भी हैम्पर करता है ट्रीटमेंट में, तो ही कैन बी चार्ज्ड फॉर तो ये एक बहुत बढ़िया लॉ था. तो इस तरह से बहुत सारे छोटे छोटे क्रिमिनल लॉ में तो अब जैसे इन्फेक्शियस डिजीजेस का लगाते थे कि ट्राइंग टू 345 से क्या एक्ट है, डॉक्टर गीतेंद्र को मालूम होगा, कि उसमें क्या था ना, डॉक्टर पे अक्सर चार्ज लगता है फॉर ट्राइंग टू स्प्रेड इन्फेक्शन. तो ऐसे केसेस में बहुत रेयरली डॉक्टर चार्ज किए जाते हैं, या अगर चार्ज किए भी जाते हैं तो पनिशमेंट नहीं होती है.
सर अभी तो बहुत होने लगे हैं, दैट इज सेक्शन 269 to 272 of IPC, under which to escalate the infection, okay, that kind of charges are been put under Biomedical Waste Act against doctors, and so many doctors are criminalized also under that. होते हैं केस तो, पर कम होते हैं.
So I think in the end, if there are no more questions, I would just like to highlight that it is a very good initiative by Dr. Sharda Jain and IEMA Easterly branch also, because now we should get into habit of keeping ourselves aware of so many laws. Because now, to give you an example, the new MBBS curriculum that has been rolled out in 2 years ago, in 2019, has increased the scope of forensic medicine from a 1.5 year subject to 2.5 year subject.
Correct.
Now forensic medicine has a lot of laws in it, and which are being taught to MBBS students, and number of hours, 100 hours of teaching have been increased in first prof itself. First month teaching नहीं होती है students की, foundation course होता है, उसमें ADCOM पढ़ाया जाता है, AETCOM, Attitude, Ethics and Communications, ठीक है, उसके 100 hours बढ़ गए हैं, तो ineffective 2.5 years से भी ज्यादा, almost 3.5 year का हो गया है, और उसमें बहुत सारी laws पढ़ाते हैं. So ठीक है, वो तो नए बैचेस को पढ़ा रहे हैं, but it is imperative for us as well to know the latest laws of the land.
I think it had been absolutely wonderful. And, you know, as far as the Delhi Gynecologist Forum and IMA East has decided that every 15 days, on the 15th and the 30th, twice in a month, we will hold the courses, hold the sessions like this, where the seasoned and well expert in the medical legal expert in the field will be delivering a lecture, or there will be question answer session when the people like, you know, Dr. Lakhotia had pointed out today, because the person who goes through the litigation is harassed. And he feels ki, what is IMA doing? What is these various organizations doing? We have to, the elders in the profession have to tell them, please hold on and give them the support. And that is what is required, that, you know, there are things that are the right kind of things that have to be told to them, so they are reassured and their mental and emotional well-being is maintained till they go to the highest land of the, highest place in the law of the land. So I think, thank you very much, Dr. Gaurav. It had been a great, and I extend my special thanks to everybody. Dr. Shakuntala, you want to say something? Dr. Shakuntala?
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, Dr. Gaurav. It was absolutely elaborate, and yet it was very crisp, very much need of the hour. And these courses that Delhi Gynae Forum, in association with the PG diploma courses, we are conducting, these courses under these ages, and we are trying to have, some university affiliation so that the course can be given a, formal setting. But I think these courses are the need of the hour. And thank you very much, everybody. And thank you, sir, for giving us such elaborate, description of the negligence, medical negligence. Thank you very much, sir.
And what Dr. Shakuntala has said, these courses are open to every doctor in this particular country of any specialty, because every aspect of the medical legal aspect is covered. And I think, the more and more doctors should definitely come forward. The second course gets started on the 15th of March. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I thanks to all the experts who were present here. Everyone has joined, especially Dr. Goel, Dr. Arvind, Dr. Gitender, especially you also, sir, because you were out of the town. And Dr. Leena and everyone. And
Dr. Raj, you need to be congratulated. You and Shakuntala, your meeting have been becoming popular day by day.
Absolutely. Yes,
all
ma'am.
because of your guiding force, ma'am.
No. I think it is the quality of the speaker, the experience of the speaker which attracts people.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much again.
Thank
you, Dr. Raj, Dr. Shakuntala. Thank you. You're always working hard. And we know Dr.
It's all the joint effort.
Dr. Sharda Jain, ma'am, is
Yes, ma'am.
really she's really got a passion for teaching, and she's a one-man army. She's a one-man army.
No,
Yes.
I could
No doubt.
see the pain of Dr. Lakhotia just now, that people who's harassed in the law of the land feels very demoralized,
Yes.
and I think we elders require to give them a support.
That's why these courses are to become to be aware about what happens, how the negligence can be put, how we can save
Yes.
ourselves. These
And
courses
we have-
are meant for that. And we have
Dr.
never
Raj,
been taught
we
in
have-
our MBBS or PG
We have
also.
learned so much from Dr. Gitendra Sharma and Dr. Hitesh, and of course Dr. Sharda Jain, ma'am, and all the special guest lectures that she had organized. And so the
Each and every
wonderful thing is
session.
that it's a small group and there is a lot of interaction. So
Yes.
if you are interested and you listen, then actually your experience
You can imply on
you
this.
can feel it, what Dr. Lakhotia is explaining about the problem of that case. Now you can almost feel it that if it happens to you, how frustrated you feel. So with the shared experience,
Dr. Raj Kumari Evokaria
I'm suffering
and
for
Dr.
last-
Shakuntala are the real living examples. how much it
Yeah.
weighs they have taken on their shoulders that, this kind of
2005,
medical
ma'am,
awareness is needed in this
2005
country.
2005 onward.
Oh my God. Oh,
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Looking
yeah.
forward for your next,
To everyone.
joining the next case.
And thank you, Dr. Sunil and Dr. Radha. I didn't see Dr. Radha.
Dr. Radha is very much there. She did not comment. That is something different.
Yeah.
Dr. Radha? Anyway. We
Thanks
opened
to
it
all
to
the
everyone to
experts
make a
who
comment.
have joined today and made this so successful.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Wonderful.
much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all the team. Thanks. Waiting for the next one.
चलो आज हो गया तो हो ही गया तेरे क्या कहने चलो, हो गया फाइनली